A very good evening. From stories around the world to stories here at home, this is the Nationals broadcast. I'm Vibhushni Sadish Kumar.
Good evening, I'm Clifford Richards. First of all, we take a look at the headlines.
Island-wide quarantine curfew from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. daily from tomorrow. Public gatherings are not permitted. Weddings prohibited from Tuesday. A program will be launched to vaccinate children above 12 years. The tourism minister says that statements of certain individuals stating arrival of foreign tourists led to the spread of the pandemic are baseless. Taliban to get power in Afghanistan. The foreign minister says Sri Lankans in Afghanistan are safe.
Moving on to the stories in detail. Head of the National Operations Center to Prevent COVID-19, Army Commander General Shavendra Silva says that quarantine curfew will be imposed island-wide daily between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. from tomorrow. The Army Commander says only persons engaged in essential services will be allowed to travel during this time. Army Commander says that no public gatherings will be permitted from midnight today. Permission will not be given to hold weddings at homes or halls from midnight Tuesday until further notice. Only 50% of the capacity can be admitted to restaurants. The Army Commander requested to refrain from visiting public places. The vaccination program is being implemented successfully island-wide. A mobile vaccination program is taking place in Colombo district on behalf of people with special needs and for elderly persons. Vaccinations from mobile vehicles took place today at the Homagama, Maharagama, Kottawa, Nugegoda, Kohuala, Delkanda, Mirihana, Padukka, Hangwella and Thalangama, Mipe and Navagamu areas. People in Navagamu, Aturugiri, Valikada, Javardhanpura, Kahatuduwa, Borolaskamu, Muleriava and Gotatua areas were vaccinated today using 10 mobile vehicles and an ambulance. People in Matakuli area who have not received any vaccine were given vaccines today at the Vice grounds. The program is being implemented by the police. People with special needs were given vaccines. $16,377,810 vaccine doses have been given to the people under COVID vaccination program. 17,219 have been given the first dose of AstraZeneca yesterday. The second dose has been given to 493 persons. 65,965 have been given the first dose of Sinopharm. And yesterday, and 217,712 have been given the second dose. 102 have been given the first dose of Pfizer vaccine yesterday, and the second dose has been given to 4,032. Meanwhile, 4,305 have been given Moderna vaccines yesterday. 2,545,927 vaccine doses have been given to the people, including so many people during the last 7 days. 390,559 vaccine doses have been given yesterday. 2,576 COVID patients were found from the country today. 2,387 left hospitals after recovering from the virus. Health authorities say that pregnant mothers should always take steps to get protected from COVID-19. The National Transport Medical Institute says that clients who have reserved a time through e-channeling or calling over telephone number 225 will be provided services. Travel restrictions are implemented between the provinces. Only persons involved in essential services, agriculture and garment factories can travel between provinces. Roadblocks are in place at the entry and exit points of the Western Province. Meanwhile, the Director General of Health Services confirmed today 161 COVID deaths which occurred yesterday. Among them are one person below 30 years and 38 individuals between the ages of 30 and 59 years. The statement issued by the Government Information Department says other 122 persons are more than 60 years of age.
Police media. spokesman, senior DIG Ajit Rohra says that 108 persons who have violated quarantine laws in the 24 hours have been taken into police custody. So far, 54,384 persons have been arrested in this connection.
Sri Lanka police are conducting continuous quarantine operations across the country. Yesterday, 108 persons have been arrested in connection with the offences of quarantine rules and regulations. Total number of 54,384 suspects have been arrested since the 30th of October 2020 to date. We have strengthened our roadblock at entry and exit points of Western Province, especially. And yesterday, 4,544 persons have been checked at the roadblock. In addition to that, 582 persons have been sent back to their original places, along with 333 vehicles as they were trying to cross the provincial border without any reason. So we have implemented roadblocks at the borders of each provinces. In addition to that, we have covered the entry and exit points of each province along with Triforces members. So therefore, general public is not allowed to cross provincial borders under any circumstances. However, the members of essential services can cross the borders to perform their duties.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa says that the government has made plans to vaccinate children more than 12 years of age step by step. The Prime Minister mentioned this while attending the opening of the Southern Province COVID-19 Child Treatment Centre established at Hambantota Hospital over video technology from the Carlton residence in Tangol. Well, it was opened by Prime Minister's wife, Madam Shiranthi Wickramasinghe Rajapaksa. Thereafter, she made an observation tour of the place with its doctors and nursing staff. Treatment for COVID commenced at Hambantota Hospital in March 2020, and it has treated about 6,000 patients so far. However, children infected with COVID have been treated at the women's ward. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa says that parents were afraid that their children will be infected with the pandemic. All steps will be taken to save the people from the virus. The Paediatric Association in the country has always performed their duties. That is why they were able to establish a COVID treatment centre for children at the Hambantota Hospital. The consultant doctors asked to set up such centres in other provinces as well. Accordingly, child COVID treatment centres will be established at all provinces. It was proposed to appoint one paediatric doctor at each education zone during the talks to recommence schools. Some people have stopped teaching children, making demands while seeing the global situation. Since the commencement of the pandemic, the schools were closed, but the government does not want to keep them closed. After teachers, principals and staff were vaccinated, plans have been made to vaccinate children above 12 years step by step. Children with complications will be given priority. The main solution is vaccination.
අරලියගහ මන්දිරයේ තිබුණු පාසල් නැවත ආරම්භ කිරීම පිළිබඳ සාකච්ඡාවකදී මේ රටේ අධ්‍යාපන කලාප 99 විශේෂඥ වෛද්‍යවරයෙකු ගානපත් කරලා දරුවන්ව බලා ගන්නත් ඉදිරිපත් වුණා. පිටුරුණි
Minister Namal Rajapaksa, State Minister D.B. Chanaka, Southern Provincial Council former chairman Somawan Shakodaguda, state officials and a group of doctors were present at the occasion.
Now on to a Corona World update. Iran to impose a 6-day-long general lockdown in cities across the country after being hit by its fifth wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. The lockdown includes all markets and public offices as well as movie theaters and restaurants in all Iranian cities. The lockdown will begin tomorrow and will last through to Saturday. The Iranian National Coronavirus Task Force, which issued the decision, also ordered a travel ban between all Iranian cities from today until Friday. Iran reported 466 deaths and 29,700 new cases of COVID-19, bringing the total pandemic death toll to 97,200 and total confirmed cases to close to 4.4 million. Last week, Iran hit a record in both its single-day death toll and confirmed new cases of COVID-19 with 42,541 new cases and a daily death toll of 588. Iran is struggling to vaccinate its people against the pandemic. Similar to the rest of the world, the country remains far behind countries including the United States and the United Kingdom in vaccinations, with only 3.8 million of its more than 80 million people having been fully vaccinated.
Meanwhile, down under in Australia, Australia has secured about 1 million additional doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine that will start arriving from tonight, Prime Minister Scott Morrison says.
Australia secured 1 million more Pfizer vaccines from Poland, a major help to the country's slow vaccine rollout. The doses will start to arrive on Sunday, said Prime Minister Scott Morrison, and will be targeted for Australians aged 20 to 39, particularly in Sydney, where cases have spiked to record highs. The state of New South Wales entered a snap lockdown to control the spread of the Delta variant in regional towns. Authorities have stepped up their measures for any residents breaking the stay-at-home orders or lying to contact tracing officials, with fines raised up to $3,700. As Sydney enters its 8th week of lockdown, hundreds more defence personnel will be deployed to enforce the lockdown rules. Several towns in the state are also under stay-at-home orders due to people breaching the Sydney lockdown and spreading the virus.
On to our local stories now. Minister Prasanna Ranatunga says that the statements saying that COVID pandemic was spread in the country due to opening its to tourists are baseless. This has been mentioned in a statement issued replying to accusations of certain people on bringing down tourists from Ukraine. He said that the tourists bubble concept has been discussed for a long time and it is according to the guidelines issued by health officials. The program was implemented to provide relief to about 3 million people who were engaged in the collapsed tourism industry. The country was open to tourists officially under a monitoring project on 23rd of December last year. 2,258 tourists arrived in the country under the program and only 9 were infected with COVID. Under the monitoring project, 21,915 tourists have arrived in the country and 220 out of them have been reported as COVID patients. The tourism minister pointed out that no one of them has come into contact with local society and the infected persons have not been exposed to the society as they were in the bio bubble. The country was not open during the second wave of COVID and the monitoring project was implemented after the second wave. Health authorities have confirmed that Indian Delta variant and South African variant have been reported from the country from Sri Lankans who have arrived from those countries. Many countries in the world have opened the countries for tourism. The tourism industry, which earned the highest foreign exchange to the national economy, was opened under health guidelines to provide a relief to the people engaged in the tourism industry. The statement issued by Minister Prasanna Ranatunga says that the statements stating that COVID is being spread due to opening the country for tourists by the opposition, which only criticizes the government for political aims and various individuals supporting them, are baseless and statements with hatred.
Meanwhile, former ambassador to Russia, Udayanga Veeratunga, has challenged MP Vijayadasa Rajapaksa for a debate on bringing down Ukrainian tourists. Mr. Udayanga Veeratunga has made the challenge, issuing a statement in connection with an article published by Mr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa on his Facebook account, mentioning that the bringing down of Ukrainian tourists. Well, the statement says that a group of Ukrainian tourists were brought to the country as a pilot project to successfully overcome reopening of the country for tourists amidst the pandemic. The tourists who arrived from Ukraine, Kazakhstan and Russia have found to be 99.6% healthy following PCR tests conducted in the country. Mr. Veeratunga has pointed out that it is a great injustice to about 3 million workers who are employed in the tourism industry, insulting the arrival of tourists by saying corona bubbles were brought. The success achieved by Maldives is a good example to understand the reality. 32% of tourists who arrived in that country is Ukrainian, Kazakhstan and Russia. Mr. Udyango Veeratunga says that he challenges MP Vijaydas Rajapaksa for any debate to prove that 30-fold decrease of tourists occurred in Sri Lanka when compared with the Maldives were due to the groups such as his. The Maldivian government has been able to take correct decisions amidst the pandemic since it does not have persons like him in parliament. Mr. Veeratunga has said in his statement that it is unfortunate for the government to create a tourist-friendly environment on behalf of about 3 million Sri Lankans engaged in tourism industry. It must not be forgotten that there are 42,000 rooms and 2,900 registered hostels in the country. Former Ambassador Veeratunga in his statement says that if he comes for the debate, he can recall the political revenge taken against him by the previous good governance government.
Afghanistan's acting interior minister says the security in capital Kabul was guaranteed following a handing over deal was agreed between the government and the Taliban. Taliban insurgents entered Kabul today as the United States evacuated diplomats from its embassy by helicopter.
Taliban insurgents entered Afghanistan's capital Kabul on Sunday, an Interior Ministry official said, as the US evacuated diplomats from its embassy by helicopter. The senior official told Reuters the Taliban was coming in from all sides, but gave no further details. There was no reports of fighting. A Taliban spokesman said in a statement that the group was in talks with the government for a peaceful surrender of Kabul. A tweet from the Afghan presidential palace account said firing had been heard at a number of points around Kabul, but that security forces in coordination with international partners had control of the city. Earlier on Sunday, the Taliban also took control of the key eastern Afghanistan city of Jalalabad without a fight. The fall of Jalalabad has given the Taliban control of a road leading to the Pakistani city of Peshawar. On Saturday, US President Joe Biden authorized 5,000 US troops to Afghanistan to help safely draw down the American embassy and remove personnel. Biden also issued a warning to the Taliban that any action that put US personnel at risk, quote, will be met with a swift and strong US military response. Biden's decision to go ahead with Trump-era plans to pull US forces out of Afghanistan after a 20-year war has given way to a Taliban resurgence. The extremists have taken city after city far more quickly than predicted. The UN has warned of a humanitarian catastrophe, as more than 250,000 people have been forced from their homes since May.
And in related news, Minister Dinesh Gunawardena has issued a special statement in connection with the crisis in Afghanistan. Minister Gunawardena has said that opportunity has been provided for Sri Lankans in Kabul to safely leave if there was a need. More than 50 Sri Lankans are staying in Kabul at present. Minister Gunawardena says that arrangements have been made for Sri Lankan officials at the embassy and for all other embassy staff of other countries in Kabul to leave safely with the coordination of the United Nations.
India celebrates its 75th Independence Day. Today, the Independence Day celebrations were conducted in different parts of Sri Lanka and the main event was held in Colombo today. The celebrations this year are part of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav initiative launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to commemorate 75 years of progressive and self-reliant India. The main Independence Day ceremony was held at India House, the official residence of High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka. The High Commissioner initiated the ceremony with the hosting of the national flag. He also read excerpts of President of India's message on the occasion. The invitees and Indian expatriates in Sri Lanka attended the ceremony virtually. A special Ashirvada Puja was held at the Parama Dhamma Chaitya Pirivena, Rajamahavihare Ratmalana to invoke blessings on the people of India and Sri Lanka on the day as well. Several cultural events and dance performances were organized online to commemorate the occasion. Events were organized at the Assistant High Commission in Kandy and consulates in Jaffna and Hambantota to mark the 75th Independence
As it was
Day.
reflected in our participation in several key multilateral forums, as well as in consolidating bilateral relationships with several countries. When India won independence 75 years ago, many skeptics thought democracy would not survive in India. Little did they know that roots of democracy were nurtured in this soil in ancient times, and even in modern times, India was ahead of many Western nations in offering franchise to all adults, regardless of any distinctions. The founding fathers had reposed their faith in the wisdom of the people, and we, the people of India, have made India a strong democracy.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi hoisted the tricolour in national capital, followed by the celebrations across states marking the 75th anniversary of India's Independence Day. Delivering his address to the nation, Prime Minister Narendra Modi says that India will launch a 100 trillion rupee national infrastructure plan that will help generate jobs and boost the economy in the country.
India is expected to launch a new national infrastructure plan worth more than $1 trillion to help boost an economy in severe decline owing to the global health crisis. Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced the plan on Sunday in the capital, New Delhi, amid Independence Day celebrations in the country. Though he did not go into specifics, Modi said that the plan would create jobs for hundreds of thousands of people. It would also pave the way for future growth in Asia's third largest economy, which saw a record drop in output in the last fiscal year. Modi also said the plan would help the country achieve its climate goals, namely expanding the use of clean fuels while aiming to be energy independent by 2047. That would involve turning the country into a global hub for hydrogen production, a clean energy source. 2047 will also mark the 100th anniversary of the nation's independence from the British.
Constructions of two biofertilizer factories commenced yesterday at the premises of Lanka Sugar Factory at Palwatta and Sevanagala, and it will produce high-quality organic fertilizer. Palwatta and Sevanagala factories belonging to Lanka Sugar Company incurred an annual loss of 130 billion rupees by January 2020. The new management has been able to convert it into an institution making a profit of 100 billion rupees within an year. 5,000 metric tons of fertilizer were imported annually for 35,000 acres of cultivation lands. 250 million rupees have been spent in that regard. With the President's decision to ban chemical fertilizer, the company faced a challenge of getting fertilizer. Palwatta and Sevanagala factories took steps to produce fertilizer to overcome that challenge. Accordingly, constructions of two biofertilizer factories were commenced yesterday. It is expected to produce 100 metric tons of biofertilizer with a nitrogen percentage of 12% annually. Minister Ramesh Patrina, State Ministers Shashrindra Rajapaksa, Janaka Wakkumbara, Vijitha Berugoda, Chairman of Lanka Sugar Company, Janaka Nimala Chandra, and Chief Executive Officer Gamini Rasaputra were present on the occasion. Professor Roshan Perera provides technical and scientific knowledge. Constructions of the factories are expected to be completed within this year.
Moving to the hill capital in Kandy. The third Kumbal Perahara of the Assala festival is parading the streets. The tusker carrying the sacred casket stepped out of the Sri Dalada Maligava at the auspicious time of 7:12 p.m. Well, the procession is conducted without the participation of the public due to the pandemic. It is being conducted according to strict health guidelines. Singharaja Tusker of the Sri Dalada Maligava is carrying the sacred casket today. Burumaraja Tusker of the Sri Dalada Maligava and Kandula Tusker of the Kalaniya Raja Mahavihara are accompanying him. The Tuskers have been dressed up in batik cloth. The procession is scheduled to return to Dalada Maligava after moving through Dalada Vidya, Kotugulala Vidya and Raja Vidya.
Gajaba Elephant has lived in the forest since the time of commencement of human-elephant conflict. The elephant has begun to come into search of food after invaders arrived at their habitat. Thereafter, he has gradually become a tamed elephant. Tamed elephants that take part in Kandi Perahara festival take a special place since it is a rare opportunity to take part in the Dalada procession. Gajaba Elephant is one of the leading elephants among them. However, a long time ago, he had terrorized the people by causing damage to crops and property in villages. Wildlife officials were able to capture Gajaba when he was in the forest. Thereafter, he was optioned by the Wildlife Department. Thereafter, traditional indigenous doctor Yatena Ranasinghe purchased him. Following that, Ranjit Vijay Singha of Yakala Muranvatta area had purchased him. He now looks after Gajaba Elephant. In 2005, Gajaba Elephant joins Dalada procession for the first time. Thereafter, he has taken part in several main processions in the country.
Well, the procession carrying the crest jewel and pinnacle of Sadahiru Stupa reached Malsiripura Nauyana Forest Hermitage this afternoon. The procession commenced this morning from the Kurunagala Gettuana Sri Mahinda Piruvena. Well, this procession reached the Forest Hermitage after moving through Ibbagamuwa, Ipalava, Gokaralla, Ambanpola and Malsiripura. Devotees can venerate the two religious items tonight. The crest jewel and pinnacle were brought to Mahinda Piruvena from Chulangamu Rajamahawihare, artists of Batalia National Replica School, who contributed to create the pinnacle, venerated the religious items under the patronage of Defence Secretary General Kamal Gunaratna. Well, that's it on the news. Do enjoy the rest of the programs. Take care and good night.
Good night.